Not yet. Oh, it says we are.
We are.
Awesome. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
Thursday.
So before we get started, I want to wish one of our good girlfriends, Bernita, a happy birthday. Yesterday was her birthday.
It says we are.
We are. Birthday, Bernita.
Awesome. Happy
Thursday.
So before we get started, I want to wish one of our good girlfriends, Bernita. So we have that same issue. So now I know what our issue is, and we're going to fix that with the future Zooms. But
Yeah, and
going. So happy birthday to Bernita. We miss
Happy
you.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
She's out on the West Coast, so hopefully she'll see this a little later, but hopefully she's still celebrating too. And also we have another good girlfriend, Shania. It's her 50th
Birthday.
birthday. She's on the West Coast too. They might be
Fans.
celebrating together, Jeanette. They might be out there celebrating together.
Right. Well, you know what? They did connect, actually.
oh, nice.
They both live in the valley, so that's nice.
Ah,
Right now.
Birthday to both of them. And tonight I'm excited. We have a special guest with us, and our topic to end Financial Literacy Month is Are Your Affairs in Order? And we're going to be talking about trusts and wills and estate planning and all that good stuff. I'm Cara Dunstan, and we're going to go around and introduce ourselves. Ladies, Marcy, how about you?
Hey, good evening. Just glad to be here just so grateful on another Thursday. So good evening. Roz, good to see you. It's been a minute. So
Thank you, yes.
for joining us, and glad to be with my good girlfriends.
Talking about
Yay. Hello, everyone. I'm Regina, and I am glad to be with my good girlfriends. As Jeanette is getting ready to say, sitting in our living rooms, just having a good conversation, but I'm glad to be here tonight. This is a great subject. I'm sure you're going to enjoy.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jeanette, and I am glad to be back with my good girlfriends for another Thursday evening virtual living room chat. So welcome back to our returning good girlfriends, and hello to our new guests as well. So tonight we are talking about a very important topic, estate planning, which is something that in the Black community we don't talk about, and we don't, and there's a lack of information. So we have a special guest with us, Rosalind Morris, who is an attorney that does estate planning, and she's going to share with us her, some information about how we go about doing that. I want to throw out our disclaimer, as I always do. Please know we are not experts. We are just good girlfriends kicking it, sharing information the way good girlfriends do and should do, actually. So I'm going to, it's my pleasure to have Roz join us tonight. And I'm sure she has a host of information, very important information to share with us.
awesome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Roz. And I'm going to jump in because I told Roz before we got on, I have so many questions. But my first question, I hope it's not too basic, but can you tell me what the difference between a will and a trust is? Like,
So let's start off with a trust is. A trust really creates its own entity, okay? And so a trust is something that you can form during your lifetime, okay? And it can have an effect during your lifetime. And there are two different types of trusts. One is a revocable, another one is an irrevocable. And revocable means that you, have control over it. You can change it anytime you want to, and you put your assets in it, okay? Irrevocable means that you cannot change it. Once it's formed, you don't have control over that assets. And you need to talk to your accountant also to find out which type of trust would be beneficial for you when it comes to the tax implications, okay? And then, the value of your assets as well. The will is basically looking at your assets, right? And your liabilities, and it expresses your intentions, what it is that you would like to have done with your assets. With my clients, I also talk about liabilities too, how those liabilities are going to be paid off, because we tend to not think about those things, but we need to. because we don't want to leave those things behind and leave a lot of mess for those that we say we love. I always tell my clients that love is an action word, right? And we need to act, right? And making sure that we have the best intentions for those that we have a desire to leave our assets to. Now, some people say, I don't have anybody. Well, hopefully you stand for some type of cause or a purpose, and there's some type of nonprofit organization that you leave your assets to. So there are just a great number of things that you need to think about. We have something that I give out free to all my clients and non-clients. You can share it with your friends and family. I call it the estate and financial checklist. And it really goes from, I'm hoping, A to Z. It may not be all inclusive, but it's very inclusive about things that you need to think about when it comes to your life. I tell people that when it comes to an estate, because people don't quite understand what that is, an estate is really looking at a person's net worth at any point in time, right? When you're alive and or dead, right? And it's the sum of a person's assets less all liabilities at that time, okay? And so we look at you, the person, we look at your personal property, your real estate property, your business, if you have one, your health, and all of that touches your money. And then we look at your finances because we want to make sure, one, that you have some, that you're saving up, and that you're doing the right thing, building a strong financial house for you while you're living, right? Maximizing, and also upon your death, leaving the generational wealth. Okay. So, and the will, we look at that as well as some other documents.
So is there, well, you said there is an irrevocable and a revocable trust. I've heard of a living trust. What is that, one of those type of trusts, or is that a different type of trust? Or
so that's a different type of trust. The living trust focuses on you while you're living. And it focuses on your health, and it only is relevant, God forbid, if you were ever in a comatose vegetative state, brain disease, brain injury. Doctors think that death may be imminent. So you get to make a choice now about those medical procedures you do or do not want to administer to you. Okay, so it will alleviate a lot of litigation and maybe arguing among family members. There's been a popular case, but it just years ago, but you've seen and heard about different cases that have gone on for like 10, 20, 30 years. Because one family member said, don't disconnect the person. Another family member would say, no, she didn't want to have, or he didn't want to have that type of life, that quality of life. And so then they'll battle it out in court. But if you make the decision in advance, right, while you're of sound mind, it just, everyone may not agree with it, but it's still your wishes, right?
so the living trust is purely health related, then has nothing to do with your
The last will and testament. No, it's another name for living trust. They call it the advanced medical directive also. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with that term. I didn't realize they were synonymous.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I'll stop asking some of my questions so the other ladies can jump in now.
So I have a question. If you don't have a will, and let's just say you decide, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to, type up a document of, the things that I want different people in my family to have, and I'm going to sign it and date it. Does that suffice as, and then, maybe mail it to myself or mail it to someone else? Would that suffice as a will expressing wishes?
The court will consider it, especially if no one contests it. You can definitely draft your own will. You need to know what your state requires. I wouldn't advise it because you want to take in the tax implications. You want to make sure, we have something in PA called the inheritance tax return. And so you want to minimize that as much as you can, if not even eliminate those tax liabilities. But you can definitely draft your own will. You need to sign it, of course, sign it in front of a notary and have two witnesses who are not related to you. Okay. And so that the court will accept it. Mm-hmm.
And if you, what are the consequences if you have a dependent and you don't have a will?
Well, that's like case specific. So there are consequences, right? So But there are laws in place that tell you how you can go about distributing your assets, right? And how your liabilities should be taken care of. People always say they don't want the state in their business. Well, if you don't take care of your business and you don't plan, then the state will get surely in your business because someone needs to handle your business because you failed to, right? And so that happens a lot, especially in our community. And so we're on this crusade to try to eliminate that as much as we can, right? We want to annihilate those GoFundMe accounts too. Okay. During COVID, I'm sure you've seen a lot of that happening, unfortunately. People without wills and dying without life insurance or sufficient life insurance. And now there's just too much information and too many ways that you can really afford to, really handle and take care of those matters.
What would you recommend? Well, I think that there's, what age would you recommend getting a will, having a will? Because I think that also, because I think sometimes people think, well, I'm not, I think COVID has made people think a lot differently. But I think that a lot of people are like, oh, I don't need to have that yet. But what would you recommend, or what would be your suggestion as far as that's concerned?
Right, I would say as soon as you acquire assets, something of value, or not of value, but valuable to those that you love, right? We've heard of times when people have passed away, people come into their house, good intentions or not, and kind of take stuff, or come into their dwelling place and kind of take things. And maybe you didn't want certain auntie or uncle or stranger to have, you wanted to give it to someone in particular. And so as soon as you acquire assets or you have a lot of liabilities, you really need to go talk to somebody and put together a will and put together a plan, right? Planning is vitally important. So it doesn't matter the age. It could be, some people have, what is it called? What's the terminology? Like an online business, or, they have a patented, a product that's patented, or, something that's copyright. You want to make sure that that is handled in the proper manner by whomever you chose to handle it. And it needs to be someone that that when I'm talking about someone, I'm talking about an executor, right? You need someone in particular and give them the legal responsibility, not the personal responsibility, but the legal responsibility to handle your affairs, close them out, and distribute whatever needs to be distributed. And so that could be any age, especially now, young people, even teenagers, right? They have businesses now. They need to go talk to a professional. They may need a trust, right? But it's the professional who makes that analysis and will really guide them correctly.
I have a question about executor now that you brought that up. Do executors, do you pay the executor, or you just assign someone and it's just their responsibility? Because it seems like, from what I've witnessed from family members being executors, it's a lot of work. So how do you go about securing an executor, and what's the process? Do they receive a portion of the estate, or is it just a volunteer effort?
It could be both. So it really depends on the conversation and the relationship between we'll call them the testator, the person who's deceased or who's creating the will, and the person they want to name. Some people name institutions, a bank. So yes, some executors are paid, right? And it could just be a person. It depends on your assets. It depends on the conversation. I always tell everyone to have a conversation with the person you want to name as your executor. Let it not be a surprise. Yeah. The person may not want to be the executor, right? Because it is a duty and a responsibility, and it's a lot of work, right? So, so some of my clients will pay their executor. It could be by the percentage, or it could be a lump sum. It really depends on what the two parties decide, or whatever the person who's creating the drafter of the will decides. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I have a question. We're talking, so far the discussion about estate planning has been, with regards to, when you have your affairs, having your affairs in order, when you pass away. But, what are other aspects of estate planning, while you are living and breathing?
Okay, so there are two other documents. There are other things, but there are two other documents, right? So as I was saying earlier, and I didn't elaborate on this, the purpose of estate planning really is to create, identify, build, preserve, and conserve your assets, your liabilities, and make sure there's proper management. So our goal is to maximize those assets while you're alive, right? And so we'll look at things like power of attorney documents. Have you ever heard of those, right? It's a financial power of attorney document and a medical power of attorney. Now, the medical power of attorney is joined with that living will part that you were asking about, right? Here in PA, different states have different, rules, regulations, maybe. So you need to know what your state, because I'm thinking you said someone in California, you need to know what your state requires, right? But here in PA, we join our medical and living will. And so that deals with those health and medical issues. You give someone the authority to talk to your healthcare provider, to have discussions with them, to allow them to get your records and transfer them to, one healthcare provider, to the hospital, wherever it's needed. So that's a power of attorney document. The other one is a financial, and that person basically will have walks in the authority as if they were you. Okay, and you can give them a general power of attorney and allow them to really make decisions and do transactions on everything your money touches, right? Your real estate, your securities. If you are an executor over someone else's estate, they stand in the place of you and take care of your business while you're living. So those two documents are drafted while you're living, right? And they can make financial decisions on your behalf too, right? So in that case, when you name those agents, once again, they should definitely be people that you know, that you love, that you trust, right? And who love you back, okay? And that they have your best interest at heart, right? And so those are documents that my daughters and I have in place. I've had them ever since I think it was Regina's question. I've had a will because I started off with a family early. I owned my first real estate when I was 19. Boom, had my will. My daughters traveled a lot with and without me, with family members, put in power of attorney documents for all of us, right? And so it is vitally important. And so another document that we look at and we make sure that our clients are properly protected with life insurance that, once again, people may have them, a lot of them don't have them in our community. We want to make sure that they do. We tell people, to go and search it out. I'm a proponent of term life. So is Dave Ramsey, so is Susie Orman, right? Because what you can do, you'll get a lot for a reasonable amount. And then you can invest the difference, okay? Because a lot of us don't go into the investment field, and we have to take advantage of that compound interest. Because one of those, that's the type of, the lack of information is causing that gap between the haves and the have-not, and different racial boundaries to widen, okay? I just read an article yesterday, and it's not looking good for the millennials, even our generation, right? So we need to really take advantage of what's out there. We have YouTube, we call it YouTube University, right? We need to take advantage of the information or seek those professionals to find it. And it's not expensive. You gotta search for a professional, just like you search for a pair of shoes. Ladies, we love our shoes and we love our clothes, right? And so we need to take value in ourselves and start investing in ourselves. So I think I answered. So those are the things that we look at, Jeanette. We also want to make sure that you have beneficiaries named that are current, right? The people on your life insurance policy, your investment policies, your bank accounts, okay? They all need to have beneficiaries, or on your bank accounts have a joint owner. Because what happens when someone passes away, if we're going to go to that, what happens when you make a transition to be home with the Lord, if someone passes away, your account will be frozen. Okay, if you don't have someone who can step right in to, cover your account. I want to be to alert you to those who have, and this is happening more often now because of all this debt and credit that we have outstanding here in America. Those who have, credit unions, they are not doing right by their members. What's happening, and it's been happening for the last 5 years that I know of, if you have an outstanding credit card or a personal loan, they don't care if you have a joint owner's name on your account because of their charters. I don't know what their charters say. I don't know if they make them public, but they'll freeze your account anyway. And even if it's illegal, so they'll wait until an attorney comes. And they know some people will just kind of like, okay, I don't know what to do, but I tell people it's urgent. If that's your situation or you know someone in that situation who had a loved one who passed away, their account frozen, then you really need to seek legal advice, okay? Because they are freezing the accounts and offsetting loans. Now, it's one thing to do it with the person who's deceased to do it, but they're trying to do it with people who's jointly owned, but it's not the person who's deceased. They're not the major member on that account, nor is the person who is surviving name on the credit card or the loan or the card note. They're just trying to get over. Okay, so you want to be careful of that. You want to find out if that's what your credit union does. And then if it does, you need to, take certain procedures and steps to try to offset that. Okay.
Wow, that's that. Okay, so look, I'm gonna go a little deeper. So if there's a credit union loan and there's the member is the name on the, say it's a mortgage loan, right? But the member's name is on, this credit union member's name is on the loan, but there are other people's names on the deed and the house and all of that kind of stuff. They will freeze that. They will freeze that? Is that what you're saying?
Bank account. They'll freeze
the bank account. Okay.
The bank account.
But so if the person has a bank account, and so say for instance, I'm going to use parents, a husband and wife. So the husband and wife are both on the credit union. The husband is the credit union member. He's the lead person, and the wife is on there, and the husband passes away. You're saying that the account will be frozen?
Yes, that's what they've been doing in the past, even if it's not a husband or wife, right? Right. So let's say it's Regina and Jeanette, right? Mm-hmm. And let's say Regina has, and Jeanette has her own account, right? Also, right? But let's say that Regina and Jeanette have a joint account together for whatever reason, but it's just Regina who has the personal loan in her name. If Jeanette has enough money in her account to offset it to a substantial amount, because I have a client right now. They have frozen her account. They didn't even tell her. Yes, they froze her account. And they're waiting for her to either act. Now, her daughter's been deceased since September. And so she found out because it's a money market account. So she doesn't really use it that much. But when she went to try to do a transaction out of that account, that's when she found out it was frozen. So it's her account. It's her name is not on the loan. So you want to really
get around something like that though, because people rely on credit unions, for various reasons.
Yes.
And not thinking that, there's this type of activity happening. So what do you put in place, Roz, to prevent something like that from happening?
First, you need to have a discussion and talk with the credit union, right? And find out what their procedures are and what they have been. Like nowadays, people and institutions are just trying to get money, right? For one reason or another. I mean, they may be in financial straits or they just need grief, right? So you don't have to deal with that credit union, right? So you need to go and find out and ask questions. You can ask questions to the teller, you can ask questions to the branch manager, and find out what they do in those procedures and get it in writing, right? Get it in writing. And sometimes they make revisions, but just know that they will try it, and they have tried it even though it's illegal. So they can tell you they have one thing in writing. You just have to, if it happens, just know that you need an attorney. I don't know if you could offset someone doing something illegal until they actually do it, right? But you want to find out what their procedures are, right? And if that's the case, especially if you're thinking that your family member can rely on that particular funding for whatever reasons after you pass, like maybe for a funeral, because though there's a law here in the state of PA that even though your account is frozen, a bank is supposed to release it, your monies up to the amount that's needed to cover your funeral bill, right? You're not supposed to hold up someone's funeral. That's a statute here in the PA. Okay, now I'm gonna talk about another bank. Most banks honor that, but there's one bank who's been ripping off our community for decades under every name that they had since I can remember. I'm 60 plus, right? And that name now is called Wells Fargo. I tell everybody, you got your money at Wells Fargo, you need to get it out. Why committed and beholden to them when they're not committed and beholden to you, and never have in our community. Okay, so I said that.
I need to talk to you offline.
I have one client, but I've been with them for 20 years and they've been probably ripping you off one way or another by interest, by doing something. Okay, but anyway, and if they haven't yet, they will soon, because I've gotten too many cases in my office about Wells Fargo. And
I appreciate you, sharing that information.
Yeah, we have some comments already or questions on Facebook. And the first one is, if you designate beneficiaries on your 401k, your bank accounts, home deed that you own, etc., do you need a will or a trust? And where does probate court come into place?
Good question.
yes, that is a great question. You can definitely, that's why we do the planning. You can definitely create a lot of non-probate, assets and items, right? But because we don't know, there is a particular time and place when we do our will, right? And then we may create certain assets or acquire certain assets and liability after the will. So you want to make sure you have a will to kind of address the generalness, like, generally what's supposed to happen to those assets that you have that you may not have named anybody. I always attach a document to a will called the memorandum. And so in that particular document, you can start writing down the personal property that you want to distribute or assign to a particular person, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to definitely sign it and have a witness sign and date it as well to make sure that they can confirm that it was you, right? So I would definitely, even when you have a trust, revocable or irrevocable, you still need a will, I would think. And I would advise, we call that a pour over, just in case there's things that weren't considered. Mm-hmm. Another thing that I do for my clients, living as well as those estates where we have a deceased person, and you all should do this now. We learned from my sister who started doing this back in the 80s when it became public with every state. You all should always check the unclaimed properties site in every state that you ever lived in and worked in, for your mother, father, sister, brother, niece, uncle, friend, right? And cousin. Mm-hmm. So my sister, this is just a short story. Our grandfather died in 79. They made this site known in public in the 80s, I'm thinking mid to late 80s. And my sister started checking for everybody, even me. I was like, why are you checking for a pop-pop? You know what? He's been dead a good many years. Then she finds something for my grandfather, and weren't my aunts and uncles blessed by it? Yes. I find a lot of money for my clients, a lot of money. So definitely. Now, the federal government used to have a site called Treasury Hunt, but that site is down now. I don't know what they use now, where one can go and see if there are some unclaimed treasury bills, treasury notes, or even savings bonds, because remember back in the day, a lot of our parents purchased savings bonds. I don't know. So I guess maybe you just have to write the federal government, but they definitely don't have a site. I haven't figured out how to investigate and do research on that, but
The government site, Raj, is saying it's not up anymore, because I know I've gone on that site on
right, Treasury Hunt. Yeah.
You know what, I just went to for the state of Pennsylvania to
For the state, yeah, the
yes,
state is good. The state is good. It's
right.
the federal government on the federal level.
Okay.
Right, the U.S. government.
But I would say even on the I've gone to, I don't know, maybe it's Pennsylvania, but if you just go on there and even for your state and check, there is, like you said, Raj, you can check everyone in the family. You can put their name in, like it doesn't require a social security number and all of that. And it'll tell you, it doesn't give you the exact amount. It might say under $100 or over $100. And then it's an easy process. And then you go and you just put a claim in and you submit the claim. I got some money for my dad, my dad has a jazz group, and he did some money for Penn.
Oh, excellent.
And money got caught up, and he got a nice, it was a nice little check. It was, listen, I tell you, at this point, any dollar amount is unexpected. We found a small dollar amount for my son who, from a copay from a medical doctor's visit that either we overpaid, and it's just literally, so even for the state, it's just literally sitting out there. So I encourage everyone, as Rod said, to check for your family members as well.
Or can I take a personal privilege to welcome our other attorney on, Deborah Thomas. Look, I was like, Julie Mann was here. Anyway, Deborah Thomas is here. Deborah, this is Rosalind. She is an attorney and she started us off. So we welcome you to the Good Girlfriends.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. It's nice to see a group of women, and I'm not at work, and it feels good to be here. So thank you for welcoming me today.
Thank you for joining
And
us.
Deborah is here in Maryland. Deborah is my good friend. And
don't introduce me like you normally introduce me. Okay.
I'm not. We're not talking about that tonight.
But we could do that another time.
And she's my attorney, and she's an attorney of friend of mine.
Awesome. So yes. So Roz is in Pennsylvania and Deborah is in Maryland. And so I have a question about that. So I have a cousin that was just asking a question about if anyone had put, things in place, but she's on the West Coast. So are you licensed to do anything outside of your state, or you're only licensed? We need to find an attorney where we live then, right? And especially with the law.
I would recommend that.
Plus the laws are different in every state, I'm presuming. So
right. So our office is licensed to do, because my daughter is an attorney, my oldest daughter also. So we cover PA, Washington, D.C. I love that area, Deborah.
Come on down.
In Georgia. Huh?
Oh my goodness.
Georgia. Oh wow. Okay. All right.
Roz, that's your daughter down there?
I have yes, Georgia.
Rafia, yes. Rafia.
Yes, Rafia. Yes.
Yes. Very nice.
So Deborah, I am going to ask you a question as it relates to this. As it relates to
is that the general theme tonight? Is about
estate planning?
Yeah. Our topic tonight is estate planning.
Is all about estate planning.
So
do you want to give an overview too?
I don't know what was that. I heard Marcia. Were you talking about the funds that are
unclaimed property?
Unclaimed funds.
Well, Roz had started, every conversation has led into the next thing, but Roz had talked about a couple of clients that she had. Well, we went to banking and what happens sometimes when folks are deceased and how banks freeze funds. And then we talked about funds and we got to that. And I was just sharing my own experience from Pennsylvania, accessing some funds for family from going on the government's website.
Okay, well, I didn't want to repeat myself. I didn't want to waste time. So I wanted to hear that, but I wanted to say in Maryland, I actually, when my father died, there's still funds. I just haven't had time. There were several funds that were there. And I encourage everyone to, even if you get funds, to check yearly, because I thought I had everything. And then I happened to look on there the other day and there was a estate of Henry Johnson was on there, and I know that's probably my dad.
Uh-oh, did she freeze?
Process
Oh.
claim funds.
But that was a great point you made.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so as far as what I do and what I just urge all to do, especially parents, is to take care of our kids in our death as we take care of them during our life. We do so much running around for our children and best schools, best club, best friends, best this, that's everything. And then we leave them in shambles, upon our death. And what I find that unless you're a millionaire or a mega millionaire, and I mean, there are some of us that could be, but for the most of my clients, I practice in Baltimore County and Baltimore City. Most are not millionaires, or, I try not to get, I'm not a tax attorney, so I'm trying not to get involved with estate taxes, which in Maryland, the minimum is 4,000 and I have to worry about it, 4 million. So I don't even, and I don't know, Roz, if you know, the federal might be 11 million by now. So I used to keep up with it because it was $1 million in Maryland and $1 million for the federal when I first started on my own practice. And it caused problems because that means many of us may have $1 million when we die, and that gets into estate issues. So, I mean, taxation. So in Maryland, there's very rarely inheritance tax because we leave most of our property to our children or to close relatives. If you get into the nieces and nephews and cousins, they may have to pay inheritance. They will have to pay inheritance taxes.
I have a question about that. So when you said it was 4 million or 11 million, you're saying anything under that, you don't have to pay inheritance?
Estate taxes, right.
Estate
so
taxes.
You know how you'll hear this issue, it's a political issue usually. The Republicans are usually want unlimited estate taxes. They feel like, and what happens is the more affluent you are, whether you're a Republican or Democrat, you start to listen to this and you say, okay, this is, as I said, this is an issue for wealthy, but not really. I mean, a lot of us have 401ks and pension assets, and you don't want the federal government or the state government to tax that money. And so they have the Republicans every year. One time it was unlimited, so it didn't matter. And now it's come back down. But in Maryland, it's 4 million is the minimum. And after that, then you have estate taxes.
So does that include like all your real estate? What does that number include?
Okay, so it includes anything that passes through your estate. So the first thing is anything that is titled in your name only, for the most part, will pass through an estate. If it's, and I'm talking very general terms here. There are things you can do all over, but let's just say you own your house. Debbie Thomas owns her own house, right? And she dies. That goes into an estate, and you have to set up probate in your state, okay, to get that. So the total amount of your estate could be in a bank account where you have $100,000, or you forget to put a beneficiary somewhere, right? On you might have life insurance you forgot to do a beneficiary. The beneficiary is now dead, and then that would go into an estate. And so anything that is in your name alone will go into your estate, and that is cumulative and can be taxed.
Gotcha.
If it's over, for estate tax purposes, if it's over 4 million in Maryland and 11 million for the federal government.
And also you mentioned, so if it's children, they don't pay an inheritance tax, but if it's anyone outside of your children, then
it's children, grandchildren, I think parents, siblings.
So a direct line, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
but remember, that's Maryland. That's specific to Maryland, not PA. Okay.
Do you all have inheritance taxes for everyone?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. The only one who's exempt, spouse. That's it.
That's it?
Yeah, oh, no. That's it.
We'll go down the line. We'll go up the line. We'll go to the side. That's how we learned it in law school. I don't know if Roger remember. Go down, up to the parents and to the siblings. So if you die without a will, it's a little trick we used to play to remember it, and it first goes down to your children, well, spouse, children, then up, and then brothers and siblings. So that's how we I still remember those little tricks. So what I urge now is for people with minor children. I am a family. I love the children. And so if you don't do anything else, is appoint guardians in your will. And that's very important. Because if you and your now, we leave our children with our parents, whomever, and we go. And it was a time where, parents didn't travel. And this is a different generation, and we're always going. So you don't want to fight between the grandparents, right? Can you imagine that? His parents wanting that, and this is where you get into difficulties and issues. My sister thinks she's a better one than your sister, and you don't want that. And not everyone should be a guardian, okay? And you and your husband know exactly who should be and who shouldn't. I never have a problem with that question. They start saying, no, we don't want Bobby to do it, or oh no, we don't want. So that is to me the most important thing. So that if you did have to go to court for a guardianship hearing, that the judge would have as evidence your will to say who you wanted to be guardian. And that person can be guardian of your children, but does not have to be the guardian of the money that you leave for your children. So you can also appoint a guardian of the property, or you can set up a trust within your will and name the trustee in your will. And you can put the terms of whatever you want in that trust that you think. Some people say 18, they can have it all. 21, they can have it all. Most African-American parents don't say that. They, all the ones I know, they have some guidelines if it's a lot of money.
Right.
25, 30, they got, some of them are too strict. If you gotta finish college, and I try not to be too restrictive in a will, and put too many, he's gotta live in the house, that's, no, but those,
That's so funny that you say that about African American parents, because I know my parents have a trust, and I can only imagine what it says. And me having been married multiple times, my father was probably like, Regina only can get it, and nobody else can get it.
My father was very laid back and very trusting, so he had no problem putting my name on his house or putting on the accounts and all that. So when he died, it was so easy for me. I already paid his bills. My mother, on the other hand, because I've been married a couple times, she's like, no, because if I put you on there, then something happens to you, and then he's gonna get, and I don't want him to have, what about my, so, but those are things, that you should, and then a will is for anything, personal items, special gifts that you say, I have a couple of scarves that I bought in Paris. And so I told my son, I said, I have a good friend, and I said, I want her to have my scarves. They're very sentimental to me. I don't buy a lot when I go there because I barely, can afford to get there. But those are my little mementos. So I said, I want my best friend to have all my Hermes scarves, right? He said, I'm not doing that. He said, I can get them on eBay. I can get a lot of money for those, scarves. So make sure whoever you put as your personal representative is not your children. So your friends make sure they get their gifts. Again, this generation, we have more stuff. And so that is a place too, that if you have special gifts that you would like to leave to someone, that is a place to do that. Property, timeshares, I see a lot. Cars, which will probably be gone by the time you die, but they're in there. If you write your spouse out, your spouse has a statutory, and probably in Pennsylvania too, they have a statutory share. So even if you write them out, they can come back and get 55% of your estate. What many people do.
That's in Maryland, 55%?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Rosa, what is it in Pennsylvania?
I was going to say, we need to talk about that, Roz.
Exactly.
And it goes both ways, right? So the husband and the wife, the ex-wives, the ex-people.
So that's why when you have a
bring me
blended,
back for my divorce and family law one, I will tell you that in some, a lot of agreements that I will write that even if you're not married, and all of my prenups, have those issues in there so that the spouse waives their share in the event
Yes.
that something happens or you separate and you're still married. I will always write in there that the spouse will waive their share.
It's
So
not
what
that high in PA, but you have to be careful with blended families. I mean, it's just very important.
Well, I used to work for Allstate Insurance Company for several years before I practiced on my own. And I love insurance. Insurance is a very to ensure that your children of another marriage are protected. I don't know if you got that. Did I freeze?
A little bit.
Yeah.
So insurance is a way to get a quick policy, maybe for your children. So the issues are, I have a blended family. My husband says, well, I had a will, he did not, right? And he's a lawyer, so we did, like plumbers, your pipes are always a mess. And so I have a son by another marriage. And so if we die together, I always write down that he would die first in my will. So that if I die second, if we're on the plane and it can't be determined who died, I'm always the one who dies last. Because then everything will go to both of my sons.
That is so
And
interesting.
and that's something to think about. Okay, because even if he wrote a will today and I died first, and his will says he'll give equally to both children, he can change his will at any time. So always remember, your wills are not mutual wills. They don't roll together. He has the ability to change, or she has the ability to change a will at any time. He doesn't do a will, I die, everything goes to him, he remarries, does not still get things together, boom, everything goes to maybe the wife, or at least a percentage, 55%, and your children are left out. So these are for a very reasonable price, you can do things. So what I did originally is I just got insurance for my other son, just in case he's the beneficiary on a couple of policies to make it right if something doesn't quite go right in the afterlife or something happens. And hopefully my husband will I think he would always do the right thing, but things happen quickly. And I've heard horror stories. So the 3 documents I think you need, and I'll make this quick, is a durable power of attorney, which is right now people don't die. I always say people aren't dying. I mean, I went to someone's house yesterday and today that was on his deathbed. Like, he's been in hospice forever. Like, they was on his deathbed at the hospital, let him go. He's in hospice at home, but because there's love at home, he's not dying. So, but what he can't maneuver. So he needs a power of attorney. His children need a power of attorney. And so many people come to me too late when their parents have dementia and it's too late and I can't do it. They have to go to court for a guardianship. It's the difference of a document I charge $200 for or $3,000 for a guardianship. So you want to get a simple, urge your clients, urge your friends, just get that document. That will allow someone to pay your rent, sublet your apartment, pay taxes, whatever you want financial, go to the bank. So the power of attorney and an advanced medical directive are the 3 documents I think everyone needs. A will, advanced medical directive, which is who's your healthcare agent, who's making decisions? Because the doctors now will ask, where's your paperwork? Who do I talk to? I got to take them off. And I have a friend who's an attorney at Hopkins, and she's in court so much because they don't have people to make decisions and they want to kick those folks out. Like, they want to get them off the machines and there's nobody. And then you have families that are fighting over that. And why not make that clear about what you want? Okay, so those are the 3 things. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm very reasonable, like, just for me, and most attorneys are not going to charge you a fortune to get those things done. And it's much better than the probate period afterwards where nothing is determined and people are upset and fighting.
And I think people do have a they're not sure. They think that getting a will and an attorney, all those things are very expensive. But I think on the other side, those things, if you don't have those things, that's going to be even more expensive. And then there's going to be fees deducted. Am I right? With the probate, are there
But
fees?
with probate, so there are ways, so what most people try to do is avoid probate where possible, because probate, first of all, is public. It takes a long time here as well. I'm sure in Pennsylvania, it takes 6 to 9 months. You have to leave it open for 6 months for creditors to attach. So bills that you didn't even know were out there, they look at the papers and they come back and get those bills. So you cannot close an estate, Medicare, Medicaid bills. Think you got a house or something that you can keep. You can't. You have to sell the house. The creditors have to be satisfied before you can distribute assets. So what's helpful is to try to avoid probate where your heirs are getting the money and they are credit proof. And that I don't do as much of, but you can set up a revocable trust or irrevocable trust.
Yeah.
Where all of your property is in a trust. And then you leave an heir, a beneficiary to the trust. That bypasses the probate process.
Yeah, Rosalind talked about that when we first got on. Go ahead, Cara.
So
Do we have a
I want to
question?
read the comments that we have. One of them says, being an executor is a lot of work, and pending how the will trust is established, you will have to keep detailed documentation on the number of hours you worked on executive duties, etc., and may have to file funds made on your taxes. So I think this goes back to, I asked Roz before you got on, Debbie, about if executors, I mentioned that I've heard and witnessed that it's a lot of work and do they get paid? So I think that comment was in reference to that. And then we also have a comment in Maryland with financial institutions, you can name beneficiary and it does not go through probate.
So that's where I was getting. Your key is to avoid probate as much as you can. So on bank accounts, a financial institution is called a payment on death, and it's just naming a beneficiary. Anything that is jointly titled with a right of survivorship, which means like into your home, your home is jointly titled, or your bank accounts are jointly titled. Or if you don't want to put someone's name on your account because you don't quite want them, like my mother just still doesn't have but she has named me as a beneficiary. And as a payment on death, it's like a POD, you'll see those initials. It flows directly to you without going through probate.
Gotcha.
I always urge that you leave a little cash for your, because there could be something out there, or if there's a home, it could be anything, and you may need some cash that has to go through the estate to pay bills or to pay things or to, whatever. So yes, the goal is to try to have as little as possible. Some people have like nothing goes through probate. And that's where you get to your, really your estate planning.
Right.
And if you'll spend $5,000 on a trip for your family, then 1 year you say, we're not going, and you take your dollars and you plan for your future.
So,
All right, can I ask the follow-up question to one of the questions you read about an executor and a fee for the executor? Is that, and maybe Roz, because I'm from Pennsylvania, or in general, is there a fee, or does it depend on how the will or it's written as to whether there's a fee for the executor or not?
So it depends on the relationship between the person writing the will and the executor that they name. I have some executors who are not given a fee and have not asked for a fee from the person who is, writing the testator, the person creating the will. And then there are some who definitely want to get paid. Some people name, institutions as their executor, depending on how much money they have. So institution will definitely get paid, right? So it just depends on your situation and your relationship with the person who you're naming to be that legal representative over your estate when you pass away.
Okay.
And in Maryland, it's funny, I had the question today. I wrote in the will, a personal representative will be entitled to reasonable compensation. The testator, my client, he didn't like that language in there. he says, I don't like that language. And I said, well, I just want to let you know that they're entitled to it, that, so you can get a fee in Maryland. Many people who are family members, like Rosalind said, they don't take the fee. They just do, they just do it. A lot of them are getting the money anyway. But many hire lawyers to do it. So I do probate and I get my fee from the estate, and it's a percentage. It's like a personal injury case, like you take a third, but sometimes the percentage is kind of high and it very little work. So you look at each case differently, and you can take the fee if the attorneys do. Either one can do it, not
Uh-oh.
the personal representative does a lot of work sometimes with me, but they don't get paid. I usually take it off.
So there was a lawsuit sometime back in PA. I guess the family members were complaining about the fee that was taken by the administrator. So now I think the cap may be around 4% unless they can justify, an additional fee. So
ours is 3.6. It's the 1,800, like a percentage of the first 20,000. So it's $1,800 for the first 20,000.
okay.
And then there's a percentage of 3.6% from the additional amount. And we cannot just take it, and you still need court approval. So we have to actually file a petition to get your fee. So you can't take your fee before the end of the unless you petition the court early. Like I have a big case and I'm like dumping money into it. So I think I'm going to petition the court to get some like a little bit of money back right now. So,
right. So ours is not dictated by a statute, but careful, especially if it's the type of case that's going to have to go to what we call the orphans court, where you have to file an accountant.
Yeah.
A lot of my cases don't, because the parties, well, I shouldn't say the parties always agree, but they don't want to take it that far because that's more money that's going to be deducted from the assets. So they come to an agreement. We do a family agreement.
Oh, that's nice. No, we have to do an accounting in every case.
So yeah, we don't. So a family agreement. So that's good, right?
I would tell you, African American attorneys, well, I can't say everybody, of course I can't, but I mean, of the friends I have here in Maryland, we're very reasonably priced. And I would tell people to shop around, look at what people do, and then look at the complexity of what you have. Because even me, I will tell you, I can't do this because of this. And you may have to pay more fees for another attorney, but I would say most of us are reasonably priced.
Well, I don't know how much longer.
And some of us have payment plans, so.
Yeah, we all have to have those.
Like that. That car, I'm sorry.
Guys, I'm not sure how much longer we have you. I know you had another commitment, but I wanted to make sure that you shared with our Facebook audience how they can reach you for all of their estate planning in the Pennsylvania area.
Thank you. One, I just want to thank you all for having me on. This has been great. I really love getting this information out. This is like my passion. I'm on this crusade. I can be reached at, I'm in the Philadelphia, Montgomery County area. I am at 150 Monument Road, Suite 207 in Bala Kenwood. You can reach me at 484-466-8771. We also do, I say we because it's a team of us. We do estate planning webinars. I've been doing them for years. Used to come on radio shows and talk about this as well. We do a lot of financial wellness workshops and webinars. In fact, we have one just focusing on educators. So if you know educator, please have them come to my site. This is how you spell my name. All you have to do is look up Rosalind Morris, Google it, and you should come across my Facebook page. It's Roslyn, because it's 50 ways you can spell Rosalind, but I spell it Roslyn, Morris, Morris. So I'm not like that savvy on Facebook, but I do try to post things so that to talk about the seminars and the webinars that we have. It's been a pleasure, my ladies. I wish you the best. And I wish that, I'm thinking that we are empowering the women here. Okay. Take care, be blessed.
Thank you, Roz.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye. Debbie, now you have to answer all of our questions.
I know.
Well, it's a passion, just to make sure that we're completely covered. I mean, we, our children to have, there is a book on Amazon, and I need to remember the name and if I can think of it, but it's a book that you could just leave your children and it's a book with all of your insurance policies. I did that today. Actually, I went through all of my policies. And how nice it would be. I'm sure you've heard horror stories if something happened and you got a book and it had the path, where everything was, your agents, your pension benefits, where everything is, the stash that you kept under the pillow in the backyard, under the tree. All of those things would be nice to leave our children. So I just urge us all to take the time, take a day off from work one day with your spouse, your significant other, yourself, and just sit on the floor with a bunch of papers, make it fun, and just start writing things down.
It's so interesting that you say that, Deborah, because my mother for years, she'll be like, okay, look at this little paper right here, because this little, and I'm like, Ma, I don't want to talk.
Okay,
Like, if something happens to me, I was like, Ma, I don't want to talk about that now. I don't want to talk about that now. And then, so can I just tell you, the other day, she came over to my house. She didn't knock on my door, but when I opened my door, there was an envelope there. And she wrote on the envelope, Regina Clay, important, please put in the safe place. And I was like, here we go with
I have one of
little
those.
thing. Here we go with another little thing. But Regina Clay has a safe with all of her important papers.
Oh.
All of my mother's important papers. I mean, my parents have trust, both have trust, and it's all in it's in their homes. It's in their home. But my mother, because my mother has, my mother, so this is kind of like, this is the funny part. My mother says to me, if something happens to me, your father doesn't need to ask you all for a dime because he has everything that he needs to bury me. And what you all are getting is what I have put aside for you all. Okay. And so that's very, right. So that's very important to understand, because in the moment, I might say, oh, but I want mommy to be taken care of. Okay, Dad, yes, I have this, and I'm going to give this insurance policy. Well, I learned this long ago. I will never give an insurance policy to a funeral director, ever. Right.
And that's a big thing that happens all the time.
It happens all the time.
Everyone gives this big insurance policy to
a funeral director.
And then the funeral costs, I don't know how much. I mean, I don't know, but when my father passed, I negotiated just about everything, and I paid out of pocket. And when you pay out of pocket, you will negotiate, and they will negotiate with you. If they have that insurance, if they have that policy, they have it. And then, and I don't know how much you get back out of that. At that point, it's, you have to get money back from them. So I would
talk about a good girlfriend strip. I learned that long ago. Never give a funeral home an insurance policy.
Well, you can get caskets on Amazon. You can get caskets now on Amazon. But they are a fraction of the price. I know you all.
Yes, no, Deborah, I heard that you can get caskets.
They're very nice caskets, and for $1,000, I mean, very reasonable. You just have to organize it with the funeral director, and it's shipped the next day to the funeral home. Right. But because there's such a markup on caskets. I mean, that's a cultural issue too. I mean,
that is a culture.
Right. I was going to say, because I think we've always heard that when you pass, you give the insurance policy, and perhaps that, as you said, culturally, we didn't have any assets, we didn't have funds, we didn't have we may not have even had money in the bank. All we had was this policy, and that may be the only thing that we had
That's
since
true.
the beginning of time. And so we take that policy because that's was
all
it.
you had to
Right.
get.
So I think it's good to hear. Don't take your policy. And that's the first time.
But if that's all you have, then how do you bury the person without giving the policy to the funeral director, the funeral?
Well, let's say you didn't have it. You would have to, well, they're not going to do anything without like money. So I guess you would have to get the check from the insurance company.
And how long does that take?
That takes a while.
Right. So I think that's why, I mean, when we talk about culturally, I think that's why folks, you know.
But now.
I know Deborah always has a good comment.
More affluent.
You're going to have to repeat that, sister. We couldn't
hear you.
But the problem, like culturally, we still do the same things because it's cultural and it's not financial. So we fall into the same habits because that's what people do. So we just want to make sure that our generation, maybe the next generation, knows that they have choices. Mm-hmm. There are some who still, there are so many people who still have to do it the old way. But we have to realize that just because that was done then, that we do have a choice now, that we can negotiate. Really, I had a good friend who was a funeral director, and she said, you know, we'll hold them for weeks and weeks and weeks. I didn't think that. I thought you had to hurry up, like hurry up. She said, no, until they give us our money, we can hold them for quite a while.
And I think I found that even more now that we've gone through COVID.
Right.
Because I had a girlfriend and they actually had a funeral, and she said, girl, you got to get in line. One, because there were not just the fact that also there were more people who were dying, but also the process as a result of COVID and the restrictions and the stipulations with different funeral homes. And if you were still doing a church, the number of people, she said, this is a process and you have to get in line with the funeral home. And if you're doing it in a church or facility or whatever. And she said it, so, and depends, but not
so it wasn't an automatic. Oh, wow.
Right. Not automatic. So I guess to your point, Deborah, that they will hold the body.
Now, one of the things that I know, and I know that this is not what we're talking about, but one of the things I think in estate planning is, I mean, you can prepay you can prepay on a payment plan.
Yes.
Right? You can go to the funeral home, you can pick out your own stuff, you can, pick out, and you have a budget, and you have, just like my mother and father, they already have their plot. I don't have to think about that. They already have the plot.
Those are very
where they're going, and it's already paid for. So I don't even have to
very expensive. And the plots are very expensive.
The plot is only part of it, opening it up.
Opening up.
Yeah.
I was shocked when my father passed away. I went out there and I think, they thought I was going to be, I was sad. But when she said 10,000 for like all of it.
Yeah.
I said, no.
I've already purchased our plots, but I haven't prepaid for any of the other services.
Yeah.
That was a whole nother expense I wasn't prepared for. But
my mother paid for that. But those are things, now that's the other thing that you can leave all of those in your advanced medical directive and your will, so that your children don't have to feel guilty if they cremate you and everyone else is having this big funeral. And I have also talked to people about, since COVID, donating your body to science and having a memorial service at a different time. I mean, if you're old, very old, sickly and very old or sickly, and there's not going to be a viewing, cremations have become more expensive lately.
Yes.
In the last few years, they used to be very inexpensive and a good alternative to a funeral. Now they have kind of built back up almost to 6,000 or 7,000.
Right.
Because funeral homes, it's a business. So the next thing, I have had a couple of friends' parents donate their bodies. And again, that's a cultural, I don't know. As my dad said, I need my eyes and I need my legs when I see St. Peter. I can't He used to say, I can't go up there without my eyes and my, lungs. And I'm like, Daddy, but there, he believes you're not doing
But
that.
that's the culture. That's the culture of
It is.
where we have come.
But I think COVID has changed COVID,
Yeah.
even to the point of not having funerals, big funerals, small ceremonies. To see a nice, small 1 hour, reasonable, I think that has changed a lot over
think
the
a
last
lot.
year of
I
what
mean,
you could do.
Even virtually, where people have put they've put it on YouTube or they
Yes.
streamed it live. And, first you think, it depends, like, but a lot more people have done that now as a result of the pandemic. And, if nothing else, what it shows us are that I think, Deborah, as you were saying, that we have choices and that we can do things differently based on, how you feel, based on your culture, based on what your finances are like.
A nice memorials. A friend is having a nice memorial service for her husband in May, and just a memorial service anywhere with jazz and food, and we can be creative now. I mean, you can, have a school and have a beautiful outdoor setting and a picnic or a park to have a memorial service. And you don't have to have it that weekend. You can plan it in several months. So all of these things, and that could be written, again, I go back to the document. You can write all of that in your document so that your children have a sense of, and you're not putting an expense maybe on your child that maybe you didn't even need or want. A nice memorial service.
One of the things that I know beneficiaries is really important to update those, because I think sometimes, especially if you've been somewhere for a long time and your situation changes. A lot of times people don't realize that they need to update those beneficiary situations.
Yeah, you'll look, I just looked at mine today. Like I said, I looked at my insurance policies, and I had one policy just to one son. And I'm like, no, I need to give it to both sons. But we had someone that was, when they were young, like my husband's niece. And we're looking at this now, 20 years later, like, and she's fine, but we wouldn't, at this point, we would want to give out money to our children. And so that's important to, you're right, Regina, I can't say, that's really important to check, or to make sure you have them at all.
Yeah, at all.
We had another question on Facebook, and it's, if executors get paid, don't they have to pay taxes on any funds earned?
Yeah, if anything that's income, that's qualified as income by the IRS, you have to pay taxes on. So whether, like, for example, as an attorney, I pay taxes on any money that I would receive. But yes, if it classifies as income by the IRS, you have to pay taxes on that money.
I had another question. So, do you have to register or is there a benefit at all of registering your will with the Register of Wills, or how does that process work? Can you just have it with your attorney, or even at home, or just notarized, or?
So let me tell you, to do a will, the first thing, you do not need it notarized. The only requirement of a will in Maryland is that it's signed by 2 witnesses. The witnesses cannot be like relatives or a legatee, which is a person who would inherit property or assets in the will. So I usually get neighbors who where they'll be for a while, good old friends to either come, or the staff at the attorney's office. Usually we do it at my office and we do the staff. I, as an attorney, always register the will at the Register of Wills for safekeeping. So that's what it's called, keeping it for safekeeping. It's $5. It is sealed in an envelope with just the name of the personal representative and the last 4 Social Security numbers. That will is kept sealed until the date of death, and the personal representative usually comes, and it will be open at the time of death. But you can go to any county if I have heard so many people say, I know they did a will, but guess what? They cannot find it. And so rather than to look under the shoebox, under the bed, or try to find the safe deposit box, or you can always call the register of wills first to check on your will. Always put it there for $5. That's the best investment ever. Only because there are different copies that could come up. People say, I know he wrote one after this one. When he was sick, there was somebody at his bedside every day, and there was an alleged one that came up. So yes, normally an attorney will keep a copy. I always keep copies, a hard copy, and I scan a copy. But normally by the time people die, your attorney, at this point, if I write a will now for my friends, by the time they die, I probably will be gone too. So, that's why it's important to have it, even if I don't, or you can't find it in the paperwork. And if you can't find it, you cannot find it. But make sure that there are 2 witnesses and no notary, because those witnesses will have to come to court to testify if there's any issue. And the witnesses must sign in the presence of the testator and must evidence them signing the will. They don't have to read it. They don't have to see what's in it. They just have to witness the signature. One thing is that the party must be mentally competent and must understand it. So I always go through a litany of questions. Who's the president? What day is it? Who are your children? Where do you live? Basic questions. But what do you want to do with your property? And I always feel it's good to have the witnesses sort of hear those questions too. If there's any type of controversy, I want the witnesses to say, no, I saw him. He said that. So you want to make sure that.
So the whole no notary and 2 signators, that's a Maryland law specifically, because
Yes.
it could be different in every state. It sounds
It
like.
could be different in every state, so you want to be careful.
Okay.
But in Maryland, you don't need the notary. You will need it for a power of attorney because that's a financial document, but not for an advanced medical directive or not for a will.
So I have a question. Oh, go ahead, Jeanette, were you gonna ask one?
Can you do a video, Will? Can you record yourself saying what it is that you would like for folks to have,
You know what? I believe you can, but I would have to look up the law. I didn't have my book, but there's a holographic, but back in the day they had a holographic will. But there is statutory language about it. So I know it's there. I just don't know what the terms are, and I would have to look it up if you wanted to do that.
So if you are married.
Let me say, being a trial attorney, that's to me one of the best. That's best evidence at that point. Okay, so I would just say I don't know for sure, but that's the best evidence you could possibly have, I would think.
So should a husband and wife have separate wills?
They all are separate.
They all are separate. It's
all
individual to the person.
Yeah, couples do come to me and we say, we want a will. And I say, no, I can't. And I don't even do it together.
Okay.
I don't even talk to them together, just in case somebody's got a little girlfriend on the side or boyfriend on the side.
What
You've seen it all, Deborah. You've seen it all, huh?
That's probably why I'm like this, because I have.
Oh my God!
You've seen some things. You've heard some things.
I have seen.
I have a question, Deborah. What if you don't have any children and you want to avoid inheritance tax? What would you recommend in that case? I
say, if a friend is I think the inheritance tax is 1%. You want to leave what you want to leave to whom you want to leave it. You can't worry about taxes.
Worry about the taxes, and it's only 1%. I thought it was.
And then what you want to do is seek the counsel of someone who can maybe have something where you avoid probate, so they don't have to pay inheritance taxes. So if your best friend, you want to leave them, you have $20,000 in the bank, make them the beneficiary on that account.
Gotcha.
Okay. You can do a life estate deed where you maintain your property and you maintain the right to sell it in all actions. It's called a life estate deed, and then put someone's name on the deed, and it's called a life estate. And then they are, let me go back to law school, the remainder. So once you die, that house becomes theirs. What happens is some people want to put their children's name on homes. For some, you want to just, I'm not a tax attorney, but you always want to make sure, because it could be gifts, it could be a gift, and a gift could be taxed. So you always want to make sure that you know the tax implications for what you're doing, and check with your accountant first. If you say, your attorney will say, yeah, I can do that because I can put a name on a deed, but I don't know specifically the tax implications. So make it just a quick call to your attorney. However, if you put someone's name on your house, their creditors could attach to that house.
Every time she's done.
That is like, no way,
That again.
I want them.
Wait, Deborah, you have to say, you have to say that again, Deborah. So,
there are some parents who, if you have bad credit, or kids have judgments, or that apartment complex where they didn't pay their rent has a judgment, they can attach to your home. So if you wanted to refinance or sell, you've got your children's possibly judgments, and they do attach automatically a lot in Baltimore County. So sometimes you don't want to put your daughter's or son's name on the house. But in a life estate deed, it will pass to them, just like having a beneficiary, and it does not go through probate.
Good to know.
So that is a way for example, a friend or niece or nephew, whomever you wanted to leave your property to, that's a way to do it without as many tax implications.
Good to know. This is
so
awesome.
you can be creative.
Yeah, it's great information.
You can be creative. And,
yeah.
well, good. I'm glad I was able to help
Absolutely.
and shed some light.
I just,
The key is to dive in.
yeah.
Deborah, can you share your contact information and how we can reach you?
Yes. So my firm is called the Law Offices of Deborah Thomas. We're located in Towson. We are on Facebook under the Law Offices of Deborah Thomas, either personal or my business page is called that. My website is at www.dtlawoffices.com, or you can Google Deborah Thomas, Debra Thomas. My phone number is 410-377-8260. And my address is 100 West Pennsylvania Avenue, right down the street from the Circuit Court of Baltimore County, in Towson, Maryland.
Awesome.
Nice.
So Cara, before we get off, I just wanna, because usually, Deborah, we highlight a African-American business. And so Deborah, in her other life, does travel for groups, right, Deborah? I mean, I know you haven't done it during COVID.
Oh, I haven't done it in a while, but it's just to Paris. I'm a French major. And in fact, that's why I was late. I was in French class tonight. But I plan trips for people now, because touring is difficult now, and I don't do tours. But what I do is, if you say I want to go somewhere for an anniversary trip and you just don't feel like doing it, I will help you do small trips and cute little ideas or Paris. I can plan your Paris trip for you.
So is Paris the only destination that you do, or are you saying you'll do?
I can do several. Paris is just, I love doing that. But I've done Italy before. I've done Spain. So those are the three, but I can pretty much do anything. But work keeps me pretty busy, and I realize that my business I've been in it 17 years now, and keeping it, our employees, we didn't lay off at all during COVID. And that was a big deal for us to keep all of our employees. And so I realized that that's a full-time, double-time job, is to run, a law practice in your own business. And so I just do very limited travel, but for friends and special people. If you need a trip, you can call me as well.
No,
Right.
great. Thank
But
you.
you love it. You
I
do
love
love
it.
it, Deb.
I do. But I realize what in life that there are certain things you can do. I try not to take on too much because I want to be good at what I do. And so
Yeah.
Paris, I do Paris every other year, and I will be going for 6 months in 2022.
Nice.
You'll
Nice.
be going for 6 months?
I think I'm gonna try to do 6 months in
What
2022.
you be doing?
So I might need a family law attorney after. I don't think he knows yet. He might
Wait
see
a
on
minute.
Facebook.
What?
Uh-oh.
Well, now that we work virtually, I can work from anywhere, right?
Yes.
And
Right. Yes, you can. Yes,
Yeah.
you can. Good for you. Wonderful.
ooh, you know
Nice.
that's my friend. Don't you be messing with my friend.
I just want to say thank you for inviting me. It was
Thank you for
great.
coming.
I really appreciate the
Yeah.
invitation and coming out and talking to all of you about a subject that's near and dear. Now, next
Uh-oh.
Oh,
traffic court, the new Jim Crow. Did
Say
you
it
hear that?
again, Deborah. Say it again.
Traffic court is the new Jim Crow.
oh, wow.
Wow.
I would say it's the new marijuana.
Wow.
It's affecting our young people in ways that you would not imagine.
Oh, wow. Traffic court.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
It's a very
Wow.
subtle, systemic way of hurting our credit, job opportunities. And it's so subtle that I do definitely, let's forget the state for this one now. But the one thing I will say for any of your children, any young people or older people too, we mostly know, but do not pay your tickets. Go to court. Go to court. Do not pay a ticket.
Court.
So that is what's happening now. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
Wow.
That's for another, because we get stopped, our children get stopped more.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
because of the stops, it's, no, oh, you're okay, this is just a warning. That does not happen to our children.
No, it's
And so we want to make sure that young people, DUIs, I have a case where someone just had a very serious accident, airbags, everything. And they didn't take her to the hospital. She had to do a field sobriety test with no coat on, freezing, scared, young female, and wrist almost broken, sprained, terrible, almost broken. And they made her do a field sobriety test and charged her and still didn't take her to the hospital.
wow.
And that's in Baltimore County. And so I wonder again about humanity is you could have at least taken her to the hospital, called someone there. She's by herself at night on the road and it happened. And so we just want to tell people what to do in the event. She had no clue of what to do. So that's another day. I'll give you that. Just the key is just call a lawyer, call a parent, and tell your children to get the word out to pay those tickets. Don't get your license suspended, your registration suspended. It's incarcerable.
Wow.
Wow.
Suspensions are incarcerable.
Wow.
Oh, we're gonna have to bring
A
that
whole
back.
nother episode. We're gonna have to bring
That's
it
another
back.
episode.
We're gonna have to bring
Thank
back
you,
for
Deborah.
that.
I can talk all day. That's what I do for a living. So I can talk all day, all night.
That was awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And Roz, if you're out there listening, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I have a whole notebook full of notes.
I was taking notes too.
And I couldn't even keep up. So I'm gonna have to go back and listen to this at least 2 or 3 times because I just couldn't even get all the good nuggets of information. But we will definitely have you back, Roz, to have part 2 of this discussion. So thank you again. You have our contact information. You are always welcome to come back and join the Good Girlfriends chat whenever you like. But thank you so much for coming tonight. And I just want to encourage everyone to go to our YouTube channel, Good Girlfriends YouTube channel. We have almost well, we have all of our Facebook chats on there. So much great information. This one will be up there very soon.
Yeah.
Go to our Good Girlfriends channel and subscribe to it, please. And like as many as you can take in. I'm telling you, there's so much great information. Just like tonight, you will find so much information on that YouTube channel. So thank you, everyone. We just hope that we can be a blessing each week and help others grow. And tonight, we hope that we've encouraged you to get your affairs in order. And we will see you next week with another topic. But this was awesome. Actually, next week's Mother's Day, right? So we should come up with something related to Mother's Day, ladies. So we will see everyone next week. And thank you again for tuning in. We're about to sign off.
Good night.
Night.
Right.